As technology grows and is refined, the world that we build using this technology shifts drastically as well. Live plays become movie theaters, then become convenient at-home streaming. Phones are invented giant and then get small and then they get big again. Despite the constant growth of technology and the convenience it brings, sometimes we leave something behind, an experience that has become so streamlined that we no longer need the old ways. Today, let's pay respect to one of those old-fashioned experiences that has become largely obsolete: the video game arcade. The history of the arcade is inherently tied to that of the first video game, as one cannot fill a video game arcade with empty boxes. While the specifics of what constitutes a video game are widely debated, most seem to agree that gaming dates back to 1962's SpaceWar. Designed at MIT by a small team of computer engineers, SpaceWar allowed two players each to control a spaceship and fire missiles at one another. With interactivity and a clear goal, SpaceWar was unlike any other computer program ever made before. The magnitude of this invention shook the computer science world, inspiring many others to try their hand at recreating the game. The largest name being Nolan Bushnell, founder of both Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, who created the first coin-operated video game, a recreation of SpaceWar called Computer Space. Bushnell's company Atari would then go on to create a little-known game by the name of Pong, an immensely simple game that brought the public's eyes onto the new technology. With a hungry public and quarters to go around, more and more companies began investing in their own arcade machines. Soon, the demand was great enough that arcade machines would begin popping up in malls, downtown streets, bars, bowling alleys. However, this small spike of interest wouldn't compare to that of the late 70s into the 80s. With the release of Taito's Space Invaders, the arcade world would enter what most still refer to as the Golden Age. Basically every single iconic arcade game that you can remember came from this time period. Staples like Asteroids, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Street Fighter, and much more made the selection grow to a point where nearly everyone could find a game that they'd like. The arcade became the place to be after school, on dates, during your work break, or for a family day of fun. As we all know though, this was never meant to last. While at-home video game consoles had existed since the 70s, they were significantly weaker than their arcade counterparts and were largely expensive compared to the occasional nickel and diming of the arcade. Towards the 90s and onwards, these consoles would begin to surpass arcade machines in graphic fidelity and ease of use. And while arcade games were meant to be played for short bursts, these at-home video games would begin telling grand stories across anywhere from 10 to 100 hours of gameplay. With interest waning and arcade machine costs going up to account for increasingly powerful hardware, arcades would begin to slowly close down or shrink due to the loss of demand. The arcade still survives in some form today through locations like Dave & Buster's and other barcade-type locations, but with a much stronger emphasis on ticket redemption and skill games rather than a typical arcade video game. However, in some corners of local bars, bowling alleys, and even the occasional dedicated arcade, one can still return to get a taste of a genuine arcade experience, just like the Golden Age.
3-Minute Flicks. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We create new videos weekly.